Hey world, I'm JK, and welcome back to my channel. This video was supposed to be a week after I watched 28 Years Later, a show of which I was so excited to watch because I'm a huge fan of the 28 Days Later zombie. However, life happened and I didn't. It happened. Good news is that 28 years later isn't worth a shiitake mushroom on a grill, so this video is no longer dedicated to a review of the movie. This video is about my top 3 favorite zombie dreams that I've had and are still exponentially better than the 28 years later movies, despite having a storyline that could be confusing and disjointing as dreams are. Also, sorry if I sound a bit weird. I am still recovering of being sick, but I really wanted to get a video out before school started, so here we go. 28 years later was just so it's disappointing. That's the only thing I can really say about that. Is just it was just disappointing. Now, when it comes to my art, I'm still learning. And digital art isn't my forte, but I'm getting a lot better from where I was last year, so hopefully you enjoy these dreams and a few of my illustrations. This first dream I wrote when I was 13 years old in 2013. This first dream was about the zombie apocalypse again, and I was trying to get away from the zombies with my mom and my stepdad. Through the chaos, we were separated, and I'm running through the street trying to survive the approaching zombies. But meanwhile, people don't realize that there are zombies in town yet. So my friend Erin was running too ahead of me, and I knew that she saw a zombie. So we all started running together down this large hill. At the end of the hill, there was a car dealership with a big sign and lots of cars with yellow price tags. The dealer is a stereotypical 70s car salesman with the gold chain and the low-cut Hawaiian button-up. He gives us a car for free for some reason, and suddenly all of my friends start showing up. They all want a ride, so I immediately oblige. So my 6 friends from school and my little stepsister Carol and I ride in a champagne gold minivan. But as we were driving away, a boy around 16 steps in front of the car, which forces me to slam on the brakes. With a gun in hand, he takes Carol and puts her somewhere where I can't see her. I got out of the car and started screaming at him to give her back, but he replies, "Only if I can have a spot in your car." Of course he could, because there was still room in the car, so there was no need for him to threaten me with my sister's life. So he gets in, and another guy that's like 29 with a gun and huge arms gets in and tells us to drive, as if he's still threatening me for some reason. He just joined us out of nowhere, and I know we don't have any time to argue. So I do as he says, and we just keep driving. He tells us to park inside of a garage connected to this gray brick house. I came to the realization that this was my garage, where I currently live. I start to choke, so I go in and I look around for supplies while the 29-year-old buff guy goes into the other room and explains to everyone of what's going on. I peek inside and I see my grandma and grandpa. Now, Grandma looks like she is about to cry, and Grandpa is clutching onto his arm and looks like he's in immense pain. I closed the door because I thought it was too good to be true that they were even there in the first place. And my grandparents were alive, and they looked safe. I leaned over to my dad, because, suddenly he was there, and told him that they were inside of the house. He looked quite happy at the news, and that made me hopeful. All of my friends were checking supplies, taking over where I had left off, while I was taking guard duty in front of the open garage door. I found that there were 3 slow-walking zombies outside, making their way towards me. I told them that they needed to hurry it up, so they ran and got a different van, because ours broke down apparently. My dad and I were left behind to gather the food, so we had enough time to say goodbye to my grandparents. It turned out that Grandpa was sick with the zombie plague. He had been bitten on the shoulder, and through a lot of wet bandages, blood was still soaking through. My grandma refused to leave his side because she was still in denial, and for our own safety, we needed to get out of there, so we said our goodbyes and left them to handle the situation how they choose. I told them I loved them and went outside where everyone was waiting in the brand new van that was different than the original. I put the stuff in the trunk and got in the car. My dad wasn't out yet, and I was getting worried. The buff guy volunteered to go look for him, and then that's when I woke up. Aw. This is actually a really sad dream to relive because my grandpa's currently in the hospital for an infection that he got from a procedure done. And my grandma is still a little bit emotionally dependent on my grandpa. And so she's hardly left his side since he's been in the hospital. So this is kind of sad and kind of interesting how I had this dream when I was 13. And it's kind of happening now, except gratefully there is not a zombie apocalypse happening at this moment in time. But yeah, gratefully the doctor says that he'll be okay, and all future procedures that he will be having to get rid of the infection should not be a problem. So thank the stars. Okay, next dream. This one's a short one, but I think it could have some potential for a young adult novel. January 27th, 2014. First date. I had a dream that me and Miles, the same guy I had a crush on in middle school, we went on a first date and he took me to this gorgeous location. It was in the mountain above the city that looked a lot like LA or Hollywood that you stereotypically see in a movie. And the whole city just went out of power. There were car lights zooming back and forth on the streets below, and that was about it. It was completely silent too, except for the sound of crickets and wind in the trees. Very romantic. I looked up and saw tons of stars, and it was so wonderful, the perfect moment. Miles sat next to me, and we just talked and laughed until this couple that was taking pictures with the photographer asked us to move. They were quite rude about it too, but we were nice and moved. However, for petty revenge, we photobombed a few pictures without the photographer knowing, because in 2014, that's, the big trend was photobombing. From then on, my subconscious had to interfere with this perfect, idyllic, romantic situation, and the zombie apocalypse started. We ran away as the couple and the photographer got attacked from zombies that came out of nowhere. We started running down the forest road, not taking the car that we came up there with in the first place for some reason. We hitched a ride with some random people, but they had this huge RV that looked safe enough. I told them that the zombies were attacking, and then they said they knew, and the husband was loading this huge rifle. Miles stayed down in the front seat with the wife, discussing potential safe spots, and the husband showed me where the roof stairs were to get a better vantage point of the nearby zombies. I located tons of zombies on top of the RV, and I heard glass breaking behind me. I turned around to see the husband was getting pulled through the window of the RV by a bunch of zombies that were on the side. The wife was screaming, but she continued to drive the car because we would have crashed otherwise. I quickly shut RV roof hatch and I ran around the RV, quickly trying to look for Miles. When I couldn't find him, I ran up to the wife and I screamed, "Where did Miles go?" She only said sorry to me, and I realized what had happened. Miles also fell out of the window too, somehow, and I tried not to cry, but I did feel a giant hole in my heart when I let it sink in. Then I woke up, and that's a cruel date. It's like I'm a self-sabotager or something. I guess I am. I did shoot myself in the foot when I told my then crush, now husband, to start dating the girl that he liked, and I had a huge crush on him at the time, so I guess the sabotaging continued in the, 5-ish years between the dream and then. So, that's life. Okay, next. Now this last dream is going to be a long one, but I remember this one so stupid well, and I always think about it on an occasion too, and it still kind of pisses me off. So the stream started out as well with my mom, my stepdad, and I, and a bunch of other people. We were looking for food and shelter, so we found this prison/church place. We began searching around when we came across these other group of survivors in the same building. They had a big muscular guy with gray hair as their leader, and his wife was Mrs. Justice, my 8th grade language arts teacher. They began shooting at us, and then someone pulled a trigger line that was tied to the handles of 2 doors, and by loosening the string, it let loose the doors, and a ton of zombies just ran towards us. We ran to this empty room and began to close the doors, but some idiots decided that it was safe, so they started walking. I pushed them through the door, just barely making it in myself. We then split up to look for food again, thinking we were disconnected from the other group. I found this long hallway that had a light at the end of it. I walked towards the light and saw Mrs. Justice sitting on a table with a bunch of fruits and vegetables on it. I went over and immediately started eating for some reason. Then she began monologuing to me about how my mom and my stepdad left me, and I said, okay, and I didn't care because I knew that she was lying to me, just trying to break me. I looked at the right window and saw my mom and my stepdad laughing while they were driving away. But then I turned to my left and saw my mom and my stepdad were actually just listening in on the conversation that me and Mrs. Justice were having. They looked trapped, but proud that I didn't fall for her trick. So zombies suddenly broke through the door and we could hear them coming closer. I somehow got my parents out of there and they were turned into this couple that this man was super skinny and had glasses and looked like he should have worked at a bookstore. His wife was really skinny and had straight brown hair that went to her shoulders. And then in my dream, I all of a sudden got their backstory and they had 2 sons that had died from the zombie apocalypse. One was about my age, about 14 at the time, and another was like this cute 6-year-old. They took me in after they escaped their house that was being ransacked by zombies. Then the scene changed, and we were driving down a highway when we saw the back right door of the car was open. The wife said, "He's here." And I looked around all confused, thinking, who's here? Who's here? Then from the back of the car and the road behind me, I hear moaning, like zombie moaning. So I found this zombie that looked like a businessman in the 60s. He had a toupee and a tan suit on with a psychedelic swirly shirt underneath showing his chest hair. I fought it out with him since I didn't have any weapons, and I pushed him out of the door that was open. He held onto the side of the car like his hands were slappy hands. I'm prying off his fingers and he finally lets go. I heard him hit the pavement and we just kept driving. I take a second look into the back seat and I see this 6-year-old that had died in the couple's house. He's holding a teddy bear and started singing a lullaby song. His skin was like this tainted green and his eyes were sunken in. It was super creepy and you could tell something was not right about him. Pounced on me like the spider and with one kick, he was out of the car window. I turned to look at the husband and wife, and the wife I could see was crying in the front seat. They didn't move a muscle as I was fighting the zombies. Our goal was to go see the wife's sister, who was in the next town, because we heard that there was a safe haven camp. We headed into town and we saw a bunch of trailers around a building that was across from a river. We thought that this was our best bet, so we headed down that direction. We approached a trailer that was blocking the way of the building, and as we approached, a guy came out and pointed a gun at us immediately and told us to get out of the car. We did, and they all freaked out that we had this woman in the car with us, the wife. Then they all shouted to get more guys with guns, and I went in front of her because they were about to shoot her. And they were like, "Get out of the way." And I was like, "No, there's no proof of what you're accusing her of," even though I had no idea what they were actually accusing her of. But then I recognized a soldier that was around my age and said, "Liam?" It turns out it was him. If you don't remember, Liam is the name of my ex-best friend, who ended up being a complete jerk in middle school. But I still thought he was my best friend for some reason. So it turned out it was him, and he looked at me and gave me this look that said, "Not now," so I blew it off, and we were allowed to enter the camp eventually after some discussion. Inside the building, there were soldiers and all sorts of people wandering around doing chores and whatnot. Well, I was walking around the perimeter of the building, and all of a sudden, zombies started to attack. I ran over to help, and it turns out that they were talking. So as I was killing them, one pinned me next to a tree by a cliff and said that they were the next generation of zombies/humans. Classic trope. I killed that zombie, and a woman zombie ran after me. I grabbed her, and we fell down the cliff into a river. I just clued in that we're actually supposed to be in a building right now. I don't know how that changed. So I got off, and she chased me back into the safe building where we were at. After some evasive maneuvering, I locked her in a room with a pool, and I stood in front of the hallway to make sure no one was going in. And then a girl walks up and was about to open up the door, and I told her to stop. There was a zombie in there. She didn't believe me, so she went in, and I could hear Short screaming and then moaning, and, I knew she turned at that point. It happened a third time, and another turned. The 3 zombies girls came out of the room and didn't attack. They actually turned into like these skinny/rich/popular girls and kept changing people to their image. So like they were making clones of the girls from Mean Girls. I ran over to Mr. Stewart, my homeroom teacher at the time, and told him the zombies were loose in the building. He didn't believe me at first, but then Liam, in his soldier uniform of authority, told him, and then he believed me. The 3 zombie girls came and started to attack the others, and Mr. Stewart shouted orders for the men to help kill them. And then I woke up. Now, For those of you who have watched my previous video that describes my zombie apocalypse dream evolution, remember when I went through a phase that no one in my zombie dreams believed me that the zombies were near? Yeah, this was one of those dreams. Not fun, but making this video was fun, and I hoped you enjoyed. I have a lot more dreams that involve zombies, and I really wish that 28 years later lived up to my dreams. But I expect nothing less of the film industry nowadays, unfortunately. The only good movie I've seen recently is probably K-pop Demon Hunters. But like and subscribe to get more of my videos. School is coming up soon in like a week, and so I'm excited to start again. But let's hope and pray I can do more videos at the same time, because I really want to do more. This is actually really fun to do. But hopefully, see you next week, and that's all I got. Gosh, I am really tired right now, and I really don't want to be doing this because my throat hurts so bad. Ugh.